resource allocation. In essence, beyond a certain level of wealth, money is no longer about consumption, it's about capital allocation. That sentence changes everything. Economics at its core is just an allocation problem. You have finite resources and infinite uses. Who decides where that goes? Imagine a school playground, 100 kids, packs of Pokemon cards handed out at random. You let it play out. Very quickly, an order emerges. The good players accumulate rare cards. The collectors sort. The negotiators strike deals. No one planned it, and yet every card ends up in the hands of the one who gets the most value from it. The system maximizes the total happiness of the playground. That's the invisible hand. Now bring in the teacher. She finds it unfair. Leo has 50 cards. Tom has 3. She confiscates, redistributes, enforces equality. 3 immediate effects. The good players stop playing. What's the point? The bad ones have no reason to improve. They'll get their share anyway. Trades collapse. The playground is equal and dead. She maximized equality. She destroyed happiness. The teacher's problem is that she can't have the information the playground had collectively. That misses economic calculation problem. Formulated in 1920, the USSR tried to solve it for 70 years with the GOS plan. Result: shortages, line collapse. Not because the Soviets were stupid, because the problem is mathematically unsolvable in centralized mode. When Musk has 200 billion, he doesn't consume it. He allocates it. SpaceX, Starlink, Neuralink, XAI, every dollar is a bet on the future. And he has a track record. PayPal, Tesla, SpaceX. He demonstrated he knows how to spot massive problems and allocate resources to them with spectacular returns. The state has a track record too. Hospitals collapsing, education declining, debt exploding, public service degrading, despite constantly rising budgets. The market identifies good allocators. Politics identifies good communicators. Profit isn't an end goal. It's a signal. It says, you've allocated scarce resources to use that people value enough to pay for it. The bigger the profit, the greater the value created. When Starlink turns profitable, it means millions of people in rural areas finally have an internet. When a ministry runs a deficit, it means it's consuming more than it produces. One creates, the other destroys, and we call that redistribution. In our societies, there are 2 categories of actors: entrepreneurs and bureaucrats. The entrepreneur takes personal risk to spot a problem, mobilize resources, create a solution. If he's wrong, he loses. If he's right, his customers win. His employees win. His suppliers win. The state collected taxes. He's the basic cell of human progress. The bureaucrat takes no personal risk. His salary is guaranteed. At best, he maintains an existing rent. At worst, he destroys it through overregulation, forced bad allocation, perverse incentives that discourage those who produce, but in no case does he create. Look at the last 50 years: iPhone, civilian internet, SpaceX, Tesla, Google, Amazon, Stripe, mRNA, ChatGPT, all private inventions driven by entrepreneurs, funded by venture capital. Not a single ministry has invented anything that's changed your daily life. France has become the world's laboratory for bureaucratic drift. 57% of GDP in public spending, an absolute record. A sprawling administration, a tax system that penalizes wealth creation. Result: falling behind the United States, Germany, Switzerland, brain drain, deindustrialization, exploding debt. And the worst part is that the bad allocation self-reinforces. The more the state takes, the less entrepreneurs create. The less they create, the less tax base there is. The more the state borrows taxes, perfect negative feedback loop. The teacher thinks she's helping, and every year the playground produces less. In our societies, it's always the entrepreneurs who advance civilization. Bureaucrats at best maintain a rent, at worst, they destroy it. No society has ever progressed by taxing its creators to subsidize its managers. The question is never who has how much. It's who allocates the next unit of resources best to maximize humanity's future. The answer hasn't changed in 200 years. It's not the civil servants. And think about what the central bank has done. They remove the private sector, remove the manufacturers, and they created jobs in government. They produce absolutely nothing. They just take. It's a drain on the system. But again, you could see why they were doing this. They were basically covering for a system that is broken, a system that doesn't function. The system that actually hurts the people, hurts progress. And now Trump is reversing all of this. He's bringing the entrepreneurs, the manufacturers back to this country taking the jobs from the government and now moving them into the private sector so the country can grow. This is the difference, and this is how an economy actually works. And when you look at Europe and you look at France, you look at the UK, you look at Italy, you look at all these different countries, they take the money from the hardworking people in this country and it's shifted over to those countries so they can have their social programs. Now the money's being cut off. The social programs will not be able to actually work in those countries. Everything that they set up is going to fail because, again, they don't have people paying for it. And if you have everyone in government jobs, what happens? The entire system doesn't function. This is why Trump right now is creating the parallel economic system. This is why he's bringing the manufacturing back. This is why he's building the infrastructure here, because he's moving beyond what the central bank has created. He's moving in a completely different direction. And you could see he's putting all the pieces in place. And it looks like Kevin Warsh right now, he has been approved by the Senate Banking Committee and will advance to the full Senate vote. So basically, he's putting his man inside the Federal Reserve. Now, he's not just going to go in there and say, listen, let's shut it all down, because again, that would hurt the entire economic system. What he's going to do, he's going to do it very slowly, methodically. He's going to restructure the entire system. The Justice Cometh explains. This is first, structure. Trump won't just flip a switch and end the Fed. That's not his style. All the sensationalism over the Fed just ending is not how Trump does things. He systematically destroys things from within and slowly destroys them. He hijacks them. And that's exactly what we're going to see. When we talked about how Trump is going to wean the entire country off the Federal Reserve, he's going to do it slowly but surely. I'm not saying this is going to take 20 years. You're going to see over the next 2-3 years, this is exactly what he's going to be doing. And while he's doing that, he's preparing the Federal Reserve to be restructured into the Treasury. So slowly but surely, he's going to be taking the country and shifting it away from the Federal Reserve and putting it on his parallel economic system, because this makes it a lot easier to restructure the entire Federal Reserve. Because when everyone is no longer dependent on the Federal Reserve, they're no longer paying the taxes, and the new system is paying the interest on the debt that has been borrowed, and we're no longer borrowing more debt. Well, the people then, they don't have to worry anymore, because now they're completely separate and apart from the Federal Reserve. And now we have a new system that is basically taken on that task. And since the new system is taking on that task, what can Trump do? He can then have the House and the Senate create the laws saying the money now will come from the new tariff system. We will use that money to pay for the interest. We'll use that money to pay for the government. We'll use that money, and it's a set amount. The Federal Reserve at this point is the lender of last resort. So we're no longer borrowing from the Federal Reserve. Plus, the paying back of the debt will come from the tariff system. Now, are we going to pay back the full debt? Most likely not. I do believe we're going to find out that there was a lot of fraud, as you can see across the country. And I think we're going to start to realize that a lot of this was because of the rebellion in this country. And when I say rebellion, I'm talking about those people that are treasonous to this country that have been trying to take over this country. And I think in the end, because of Amendment 14, Section 4, we will not have to pay a lot of this debt back. Plus, when we start to look into the Federal Reserve and we start to get reports from the Federal Reserve that, hey, there's been criminal activity, I think we're going to find out, wait a minute, do we have to pay that back? And I think we're going to start to see that we're not going to have to pay back a lot of this debt, which is going to make it a lot easier for Trump to actually remove the Federal Reserve System. So yes, I do believe this is where all this is headed. And it looks like Trump now is setting the stage for the next phase of the operation. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.